Broadcasting from the Keep Moving Forward Creator Studios, it's time for the Athletes of the Titan Games podcast. This limited release show features the stories of the 2019 contestants of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's athletic competition, NBC's The Titan Games. Now here's your host, Katie Galley.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Athletes of the Titan Games podcast. I'm your host, Katie Galley. In the Keep Moving Forward Creator Studio with me today, I have Titan Games athlete and medical device researcher at a Google startup, Emily Hugh. How are you doing, Emily?
I'm great. How are you?
I am doing awesome. Thanks so much for stopping by and sharing your story with us.
Yeah, of course.
So just to kick things off, I wonder, where did you grow up and how, if at all, was your childhood shaped by athletics?
So I grew up in Northern California in a suburb very close to Oakland. And I am the daughter of Taiwanese immigrants. So growing up, sports and athleticism was actually highly discouraged because that's not something that's a big part of my parents' culture. So I would say growing up, there was not much of a influence in pursuing sports or being athletic at all.
So with that, not being something that was brought up in your life, what did you focus in on? Was it primarily academics? Were you involved in other sorts of activities?
So the primary focus was academics. My parents are very traditional in that respect, where as immigrants and as Taiwanese immigrants who are very academic themselves, they put a high value on academic achievement, and they encouraged us to only pursue academics. As a child, I got a few activities here and there. I took a gymnastics class as a small child, and I did taekwondo in middle school. But really and truly, my parents wanted us to not do outside activities outside of school and just pursue academics only.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense, given their background coming over as immigrants and instilling that within you and wanting that for you as well. So,
right.
So from there, having that, your childhood shaped in that way, primarily focusing in on your studies and different activities related, how did it ultimately bring you to the profession that you are in today?
So once again, I think this is an Asian thing. It's definitely a Taiwanese thing. My parents were heavily focused on science and math. And like a lot of Asian immigrants, they loved engineering. So they encouraged me to go into either engineering or medicine. I didn't really have much interest in medicine, but I liked the idea of engineering. And I liked the idea of inventing things to help people live longer. So I pursued that area of study. Upon graduating, I graduated with a biomedical engineering degree. And I just kind of stuck in that field because I actually really liked it. And even after graduation, I'd say most engineers hate engineering, don't want to do it, but I still liked it afterwards. So I pursued that.
That's awesome, though, that you found something that it was something that you were encouraged into, but something that you also ended up enjoying very much.
Yeah, I think it worked out very well.
Yeah. So, from there, so you got your degree in biomedical engineering, and then but that was at a pretty early age, right? So you went on to get your master's as well.
Right, yes. So, as a kid, I was always in a hurry. I wanted to prove how smart I was. So I went straight from undergrad to grad. Actually, I left high school early to go to college, and then I tried to finish that as soon as possible, and I tried to finish grad school as soon as possible. So I ended up getting my master's in engineering at 22, then entering the workforce right away.
Wow. And so what prompted that? Being, always in a hurry, always wanting to prove yourself, was that too based upon your background and your upbringing from your parents as immigrants coming over and instilling that work ethic within you? Or was it some kind of just an internal drive that you had where you wanted to just constantly achieve these goals that you set for yourself?
Probably some combination of everything. I think a little bit of it is this bravado that a lot of young people have where they want to prove themselves. And, like a lot of young people, I thought I knew everything. And I thought if I could just get to the workforce faster, I could prove that I knew everything. Then I grew up and I realized I knew nothing.
So when did that, I guess, set in? You were achieving all these incredible things and on this track, graduating so early. So when did that realization of you were, chasing this desire to be intelligent and seek wisdom? But did it happen when you entered the workforce? Did you have kind of an experience that maybe slowed you down and humbled you and made you realize, okay, I need to take a step back. I need to just really take this all in?
Not really. There wasn't any pivotal moment. I think when you're young and you have no life experience, you think you have it all figured out. Then as you start figuring things out, you realize this is nothing like what I thought. And, maybe I should just like slow down and relax a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense. It's just your own experiences and what you go through. And so from there, how did you end up at this Google startup?
So from there, well, actually from grad school, I continued to work in medical device research. I started off working at a company that made medical devices, and I really liked it. So I stayed doing that, and I did it for, at this point, like over a decade. And then at some point, Google decided they wanted to create a company that would also try to make medical devices, and they were looking for people who had experience doing this. So I was fortunate enough that they found me at just the right time in my career where it made sense for me to join.
Wow. That's amazing. So this opportunity just, it arose and you decided, okay, this is now a new path that you want to take and that you just went for it?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely put in the work to pursue it too, because when I heard that Google was making a startup, I thought, well, that sounds awesome. Google does big things, and they, they have a very altruistic mission. So it seemed like something I'd want to try. So I definitely made the nicest version of my resume and sent it over to them the second I heard they had openings.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so you got to use all of this experience that you had in 10 plus years of medical device research and then use it in a company like you're saying that you aligned with, you like their values, you like what they stood for.
Right, yes.
So, now, so you found this path and you got to now work with this startup for Google and be aligned with this life mission as well as this career mission that you're on. But then, too, I know you, at least at some point in your life, you got into athletics, even though it wasn't something that you were necessarily brought up on. So how did powerlifting start to fit into this life that you were leading?
It's kind of a funny story. I'd say powerlifting did not fit into my life at all. I think, as many people do, I had a quarter-life crisis, like a lot of young professionals do. Maybe around like 28. Maybe this was around the point where I started realizing that, I didn't have it all figured out. But sometime around 28, I thought, wow, I don't want my whole life to be working in a cubicle. I kind of want to do more with my life, but I had no idea what. And maybe my late 20s, I think, I just, thought, well, what bucket list items did I have as a kid that I can start knocking off now? And I remember as a kid, I was always really interested in competing in a sport, but since my parents didn't encourage it, and as a child, I was, not as adventurous, I was maybe a little lazier, I didn't really pursue it because I didn't have the encouragement of my parents. So in my late 20s, I thought, hey, it'd be kind of cool to compete at a really high level in a sport. But hey, I don't actually do sports. So maybe I got to learn something. And in my late 20s, I started lifting, but not powerlifting, just kind of like bodybuilding and general fitness. And I got really into bodybuilding. I got really into heavy lifting. So naturally, when I hit 30, I actually had my full-on existential crisis. And I decided, I need to quit this corporate job and do something more fun. And I want to travel the world. And I want to do all these bucket list items. And so at 30, I thought, you know what? I think I'm pretty strong from all of my bodybuilding lifting experiences at a Gold's Gym. I really want to try powerlifting because that looks so cool. And I know how to deadlift, and I love deadlifting, and I think I'm great at the deadlift. So at the age of 30, I decided I'm going to enter my first powerlifting competition, and I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm going to do this because it's a bucket list item.
Yeah. Man, that's so cool that you just decided. So you had, I like the way you described it, kind of an existential crisis. And you're like, okay, how am I going to attack this? How am I going to go after this in my life now? And so just kind of finding the sport of powerlifting. And so what made you decide then, so you were in it and you were just getting physically fit. So did you just love it enough where you wanted to try that competition? Or was it truly, you had it on your bucket list, you had it written down, and you said you just wanted to check it off that list that badly?
Yeah, well, I'll be honest. There's like no 10-year-old in this world that says, before I die, I want to enter a powerlifting competition. I think it was this sense of, I want more adventure in my life. What can I do that might be interesting to me? And I think the idea of competing in something that's, not academic, competing in a sport sounded just very fun. And I was always fit growing up, but I never pursued athletics, so I wasn't incredibly athletic or sporty growing up. So this idea of trying something that was wildly different from what I'd known seemed really exciting. And I think that's what sparked my curiosity. It really also helped that I had a lot of encouragement from the gym community. I worked with a personal trainer at Gold's, and he would encourage me. He told me that he thought I was very strong. The random men at Gold's would tell me that I was really strong and I should consider competing because they thought I'd do a great job. So, when I gave it a shot, it was so fun that I just felt like rewarded for having tried something new.
Yeah. That is really cool. I mean, deciding to try something new and then excelling at it. And you just said something that you hadn't really done at all your whole life, not being in athletics, but then all of a sudden just picking it up and excelling at it. And I think that comes with that discipline and that mindset that you had all throughout your life of wanting to prove yourself or wanting to prove yourself, prove people wrong, always being in a hurry to achieve that next thing. So then it made you excel in this brand new sport.
Mm-hmm.
So when you decided then to start competing, did it start leading you down this new path? Did you kind of get that bug and wanted to start competing in more competitions, or was it kind of just one and done for you?
Oh, no, most definitely was the first thing.
Yeah.
Somehow this went from, hey, I'm 30 and having an existential crisis to taking on a whole life of its own. Anyone who knew me in my 20s would tell you they would have never saw this coming, right? Like I was so skinny. While I was fit and I was healthy, I wasn't like super athletic. I wasn't buff. I wasn't super strong. But I was always kind of adventurous. So maybe you could have predicted I'd do something strange. But they never saw this. they never saw the powerlifting thing coming. But I think I just got very lucky. I decided to try something new. I found a very supportive community, and I found a really good coach who was great. And since the first competition was such a positive experience, I just kept at it. And every competition was, in general, a positive experience. Like, I didn't win every time. I didn't always have a PR, but, on the aggregate, it felt like this was so new, so interesting, so net positive that why wouldn't I pursue this when, the work life can be pretty boring, especially if you're not brand new to the workforce. So it felt like the adventure I needed to keep life interesting.
Man, that really is such a cool journey that you took to athletics, and then just, going along with that, that sense of whimsy, I guess, you just trying new things and deciding to go after it, but not just going half-heartedly, deciding, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to see what I can actually do with it. And then, discovering these new passions. And so while you're on this path, both athletically and in your career, with this startup, I wonder, how did you, find this opportunity then to become a contestant on this season's Titan Games?
Just like with everything in life, I think I'm just very, very lucky. I'm always so fortunate to know somebody who thinks highly enough of me that they want to help me. So, I actually train with a very famous powerlifter, and I found him just by random coincidence. I had mentioned the word powerlifting to a work colleague, and he happened to know Dan Green, who was like the best powerlifter at our time, and he offered to put in an introduction for me to Dan, and that's how he became my coach. So something really similar like this happened for Titan Games. I think one of the casting directors had put out a casting call, and an acquaintance of mine from high school happened to know this casting director, and she said to him, hey, I think I have somebody who might be interesting for you to put on your show. And she suggested me, and then he looked at my Instagram and said, oh yeah, I think you'd be a shoo-in for the show. Can I convince you to audition? And I thought, hey, why not? This sounds fun. The last time I did something random because it sounded fun, I ended up breaking 3 world records a few years later. So why not?
Oh, man. Yeah, if that's not a, incentive to try, what is,
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty amazing. So again, just knowing these people in your life who are encouraging you and having that community around you. And two, I think it's a testament to meeting certain people and having them come across your path and maybe not knowing what role they may play at some point, if any at all. So someone that you knew from high school, and it ended up working out in that way. So you never know, I guess, who you're inspiring or who you're impacting simply by putting that positive image out there.
Right. And I think a lot of it also is, people are so hesitant to say this, but, a lot of times you get lucky and you have the help of friends. Like, I didn't do any of this alone by any means. Yeah, I did all the work myself, but I definitely had support the whole way through, either direct or indirect.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's true. You can't you have to put in the work. You have to decide, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go after it. But it's true. You need those people around you. You need that support system, whether it be a coach, a friend, a mentor, a family member. You need those people in your life to support you. And especially on the days that maybe you doubt yourself or you second guess why you're even on those paths. Those are the people that are going to help hoist you up and make you remember why you even started.
Exactly.
So when you decided this, then it worked out for you. You got, records as a power lifter. So this new opportunity, this athletic competition came up. So it made sense that you would, want to go after it and try and see if you could become a contestant. So once you did apply, did you you put your application in, did you kind of forget about it until the combine, until they gave you a call for the combine? Or was it just something that was constantly a state presence in your mind? Or, what was your experience like leading up to the combine?
I would say it was pretty neutral. So I had my audition with them. There was like an audition video you sent in. And so I sent that in, and then I just kind of put it on the back burner and didn't think much about it because, I never really had any ambitions to be on TV. I just didn't think that was for me. So if I didn't get it, I thought that was fine. And then if I got it, it was something that would be actually really interesting that maybe I do. But in either case, I thought, life goes on and life is pretty good. So there's no harm either way.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like that. Life goes on and life is pretty good either way. So it's just, it's that state of mind, that intentionality and that presence that you have going into no matter what's next. So, but now though, obviously you made it to the combine, you made it to the games. Mm-hmm. So from there, I wonder, what would you say is your definition of a Titan, and how do you believe that your experience on the Titan Games this season will now carry over into the rest of your life?
Well, that's a tough one. I think what makes one a Titan is really an attitude, not an ability. Yeah. Because, if you think about it, like I said, a lot of things come down to luck, right? Like when you watch the Olympics, sometimes the person who you thought was going to win didn't win because maybe someone else got lucky that day. But it doesn't really take away from the other people. I think what really it is it's the mindset that you're going to work really hard and put yourself out there and do something that's potentially really difficult and really scary. And you're going to have a positive attitude and push yourself regardless. And even if you win or even if you lose, you're going to be grateful regardless.
I really like that a lot. It's because it's true. You can be the most physically fit person out there, but how are you going to approach the situation? Whether you win or lose, whether unforeseen circumstances happen to you, obstacles come up, how are you going to react? What is your attitude going to be towards that? And you're right. That's just that tells you a lot about a person as an athlete, as just, in general in life, who they are, that attitude and presence that they carry with them, no matter the circumstances.
Right, exactly. Because, sometimes we get lucky and sometimes we don't. And how you handle the unlucky days is probably more important than how you handle the lucky days.
Yep. That's absolutely true. I love that. I really love that. So Emily, looking forward, having achieved so much, just setting your mind to something and deciding, all right, I'm going to achieve it. And then looking forward, of course, you have so many more goals and obstacles that you're going to achieve and successes that you're going to have. But I just have one final question for you, and it's one that I ask all of my interviewees. What do you want to be remembered for?
I think I want to be remembered for being a badass.
Yeah.
I want people to know that whatever it was I did, I went in there and I got the job done. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it didn't always go my way, but I still, I did it on my terms.
Thank you all for tuning in to today's installment of the Athletes of the Titan Games podcast. To learn more about each of these Titan athletes, be sure to check out their information in the links in my show notes. Furthermore, to stay up to date on all things coming out of the Keep Moving Forward Creators Studio, be sure to subscribe to the Keep Moving Forward podcast iTunes channel and follow along on social media, also available in the show notes. As the creator of the Titan Games, Mr. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson says, "Titans aren't born, they're made." And I hope today's story helped you realize all that you are capable of becoming if you put in that hard work and just keep moving forward.